The philosophical conundrum that we're going to see is, can things go from bad to worse?
Are we seeing a trend of young men being influenced by the Joe Rogans and the Theo Vons?
You want the real truth, just ask your Uber driver.
You've sat down with Barack Obama. I watched a very fun conversation you had with Obama. And yet here you are saying he's a war criminal.
Yes.
Could you ever be in politics?
No, I cannot. Even though people say, they're like, you look like it. And I'm like, that's a huge insult. Kids ask us tougher questions than Mehdi Hasan.
100%.
They ask like true paradoxes about like the very meaning of life. How do I justify the iTunes user agreement that I signed up for? I clicked accept. In exchange for that, I got a BMW 3 Series. Yep. But my tax dollars fund the destruction of people who look very similar to me.
I feel like if you weren't a comedian after today, you would have a very good alternate career as a
basketball coach.
Therapist.
No, bro, no.
I'm Mehdi Hasan.
I'm Hasan Minhaj.
And we're not kidding.
We're not kidding.
We're not kidding. The new podcast, well, it's not new anymore. The old podcast.
It's been around for a while,
where I get to talk to funny people about serious things and hopefully funny things as well. Hasan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. We're in New York City.
We're in New York City,
what
baby.
Was your city? You used to live here.
I used to live here, yes. We live in the suburbs now. I've sold out.
You sold out.
I'm a sellout, baby.
We're here in New York City. You can't see, but we're right near Times Square. It's all very touristy.
How do you feel about New York City?
I like it. I like it to visit. I don't think I could live here.
Yeah.
But it's good for a visit. I'm here for a day trip. For you?
Yeah. New York City is kind of has the same BPM and mental health of his Twitter feed.
My Twitter feed. You're not on Twitter anymore,
bro. I left a long time.
Are you sure you're not on Twitter lurking?
No,
you're
no
not
burners.
Blue Sky.
No burners. You know.
Are you on Blue Sky? You're gonna say you don't.
Not
know
on Blue Sky either.
You know what it is.
I know what Blue Sky is.
Okay,
yeah. But I'm not falling for any of these tricks.
Okay, fine.
Follow me. Follow
you're on
me
Instagram.
I'm on Instagram for sure.
Okay, so Zuckerberg is your thing.
I just like it for sports highlights, and I like what it is.
Well, we're in New York. Before we get going, we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
You were in my city recently, in London, I believe. You went on vacation. How do you find London?
I was on vacation.
Do you like it? Americans either love or hate England. What are you?
I love London. I love London. I love how Britain, it knows it's over.
That's so true.
It knows it's a joke.
Okay, calm down. It's not,
no,
a joke.
It knows that
I'll give you.
Yeah. It knows that it's over. It knows that it's a joke.
It's a joke.
It knows that when you go to the all the museums and you get a Paddington Bear and there's a book because this is the Queen and everyone there knows that it's serious, but it's not serious.
As opposed to the US?
Is that serious? That's just so serious.
London has a Muslim mayor.
Yes, he does.
Yes,
they do. They do.
You interviewed him recently.
Salih Khan, of course, yeah.
There was I thoroughly enjoyed the accent challenge. I think we can play a clip.
Vitamin water.
Vitamin water.
No taxation without representation.
No taxation without representation.
My man. Down with the monarchy.
No, man. I'm going to go back to Heathrow Airport.
I just want to hear what it sounds like. I'm not going to take you out of context.
God save the king.
God save the king. Insane. What an insane thing to say.
I mean, I agree with you. It's an insane thing to do.
That is an insane thing to say.
It's an insane thing to do. I don't support the monarchy. I never have. And it's funny that poor old Sadiq Khan.
But he has to. He has to for his job.
He has to do for his job. Because you've never had so in the I don't know if you know this. In the UK, if you don't support the monarchy, do you know what you're called?
Anti-monarch?
No, you're called a Republican.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People don't realize. I used to say when I moved to I'm a Republican. Huh? No, not that kind of Republican. A Republican means you want a republic.
Okay.
Right? You don't want a monarchy. You want an elected head of state.
Sure.
You've done a lot of. It's funny you did the accent challenge with Sadiq, who did it very well. And I'm a bit of a sponge. I'm married to an American, so my accent changes a bit.
Oh, it does?
It does, depending who I'm talking to.
Oh, really?
If I'm talking to British people, I become very British. If I'm talking to Americans, maybe.
Yeah, your Oxford Union stuff is very British. Yeah. When you did your big Oxford Union debate, you sound very
That's the most British place you could be.
Yeah, you were very British.
But you've done a lot of good accents. I've seen. I was watching your stand-up special on Netflix, which is out now.
Yes.
You love to do a good Desi accent.
If I can tap into like a dad or something, I'll dive into.
We all tap into dads and uncles. So Off With His Head. I watched it live in DC when you did it when you were on tour.
Yeah.
It's now on Netflix. Came out October 22nd. Everyone should check it out on Netflix. It is bloody brilliant. You got to tell people at home. You recorded. It came out in October.
Yes.
But you recorded it over the summer.
Yes.
You recorded it on a very, shall I say, historic day?
It was a historic day.
Unique, newsy day?
So the day we recorded the special, Donald Trump was shot that day.
Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yes. Butler,
That was the same
Pennsylvania.
day?
It was the same day. And we were
That night?
That night, we were recording. We had 2 shows, 7 p.m. PST, 9:30 p.m. PST. So actually,
Did you know he had been shot?
everybody was,
on Twitter.
everybody was talking about it backstage.
Because I know you're not on social media. So.
Yeah. It just happened. Yeah. And there was a moment where we circled up, and this is like a profound moment, which I think so informs how comedians and artists should look at the form. Everybody was backstage, and they're like, "So yeah, we should talk about it. We got to talk about it on stage.
Like a late night show. Do a bit on it.
Do a bit.
Yeah.
It's this is going to be the most. This is one of the most.
I've watched it. You don't mention it at all.
Exactly. That's the point. Everybody backstage was like, "This is the most monumental
Like,
thing
I've got my story
that's ever happened." Yeah, this is the most. You have to talk about it. Like everybody in the audience is going to want you to talk about it. I'm like, this is going to come out months from now, and the problem is that the current state of media and the fire hose of stuff that comes at us, everything is breaking news. So I promise you, this will not be the most important thing.
Did you not think that talking about it would at least give you an alibi?
No. Nobody.
You're in San Jose, not Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
it wasn't
nobody.
me.
But nobody truly. No, this is what I mean. Nobody truly in that audience. I think I maybe when I came out or something said slow news day on the early
To the
show.
San Francisco crowd.
Yeah, and
I want to play some clips. There's some really good political stuff in here that really appeals to people like me.
Sure.
But before we get to, you talk about the form. One thing I was rewatching this. Well, obviously I watched it live, but it's different on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I watched it again before our chat. And one thing I laughed at, and I always find this funny when I go to see stand-up comedy, is the use that you guys make of people in the crowd, right? To the point where you almost think it's fixed, and it's not. But you know that you're. How lucky do you get in this particular in the Netflix special? There's an Indian uncle like 3 rows back, and you just use him as a foil.
Yes.
From start to finish.
Well, I didn't use him as a foil. He exists.
Well, he became a foil.
No, he exists as a foil. That's the thing you're not
That's his
understanding.
identity.
Yeah, you're not understanding this. They are foils. Indian dads, Indian, Pakistani dads, Bengali dads are foils in and of
But
itself.
what if you hadn't been sitting there? Did you have another thing in your back pocket? Like,
Sure.
When you look around, you're like, gotcha.
Yeah, if you watch the special, there's also just like 5 brown dudes with chains and the same taper fade that Drake has. I didn't ask for
And
that.
you made the Drake
It's
gag.
just what it is. So, like stand-up is it's a live art form.
Yes.
So you just have to take the circumstances that exist in the room that are like happening in real time. We're in these velvet couches. For some reason, we have a shot clock while we're recording a podcast as if we're playing basketball. Yeah. And you're wearing a hoodie to say, I'm not the news guy today.
I've been wearing a hoodie for a while.
These are the circumstances. I know. And it's your, I'm not kidding. This is your, I'm a politician.
As soon as this is over,
I wear the button up shirt.
As soon as this is over, I'm putting a suit and tie back on.
There you go.
To get back on my train.
You sleep in it.
I sleep in it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Bassem said to me on the very first show.
You lift the duvet.
The very first We're Not Kidding we did with Bassem Youssef.
Yeah.
He said, I refuse to believe you don't go to sleep in a suit and tie. Which
That's great.
I'll let people speculate on whether that's true or
That's
not.
great. Speculate. Let us know in the
By the way,
comments.
since you mentioned the art and the form and stand-up, and
Yes.
since we launched this show with Bassem, and I told him at the time that one of the options for names, and regular viewers and listeners to the podcast will know, one of the options we had, instead of We're Not Kidding, we were going to call this show We Should Have Been Doctors. Right? As brown folks who do things that are not, I'm a journalist, you're a comedian.
Yeah.
Were you always going to be a comedian?
No. I mean, the title now should be, based on the way physicians get paid. Why are you a doctor? Why on earth would you be?
Did you ever consider that career path?
Yeah, but I failed out of it.
Oh.
I was pre-med. I didn't fail out of it.
I didn't know that. You were
performed.
pre-med.
I was pre-med. Yeah.
So we're actually going to go down the brown. I can say
I
I
thought so,
was
yeah.
never going to do it, but you actually were going to do it.
Yeah, so it was pre-med and then did not get good enough grades and then I became pre-law. I just hard pivoted into pre-law and then
When did it become pre-comedy?
I was doing pre-comedy end of my freshman year. So starting my freshman year, I started doing stand-up comedy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And look,
And the rest
mashallah,
of-
beta, you made a
I
career
know,
out
the rest is history. I made a career out of it somehow. It
So,
pays the bills. Yeah.
The stand-up hopefully is paying the bills on Netflix. You
Yeah.
record it on the day that Donald Trump is almost killed.
Yes.
That day, everyone in the news media, or a lot of people in the news media say, well, he's going to win now. This is going to give him a landslide. He's going to get the sympathy vote. He's a martyr.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the assassination attempt played into his win, but he did win.
Yes.
And he won pretty convincingly in a lot of ways,
Critical
although his
states, yeah.
margin of vote is actually much smaller than people think. But he did win a lot with people of color. His numbers went up. He
Yes.
had the best GOP showing with black voters for 48 years, the best GOP showing with Hispanics in 52 years. He gained 12 points with Latino voters. In Dearborn, with our people, with the
Yes.
Muslims, he got more votes than Kamala Harris in the
Yes.
city of Dearborn, which is considered by many to be the Arab American capital of America. Although overall Muslims still voted for Harris. he did well with people of color. And I'm watching your special, and I feel like you almost predicted this.
I knew it.
Let's play that clip.
Baby, cue the clip.
Dude, look at the Republican Party. There are more Indians in the Republican Party than my bachelor party. And right now, it's wild. Yo, more minorities with melanin. Ooh, joining the hard R Republicans. It's happening more than ever. And all my white NPR tote bag friends, it fries their brain. They're like, what the fuck is going on? Why are all these Mexicans voting for Donald Trump? He calls them rapists. I'm like, Chelsea? Do you know what I would let a politician call me if I could pay 0% federal income tax? I would let you body cavity search me at every airport. Spit in my mouth and call me a terrorist. Daddy wants to pay 0% FICA. That's the thing Caucasia will never understand about Beigeistan. We are way more practical than we are progressive.
You called it.
Called it.
How did you call it? How did you know that the Browns and the people of color were going to actually go for Trump?
Because I'm not on Twitter and I talk to people.
Okay. It's painful. I feel seen.
No, you know.
I talked to people too, and I suspected that a lot more.
Yes.
I didn't expect it on this level, but I knew that Trump was going to pick up votes.
But I also mean this in this way. You know how they go, according to a Gallup poll. I'm like, I don't know who's galloping to.
Are you a poll
landline.
denialist? Do you not believe polls?
I don't base it on polls.
Yeah.
What I try to do is I try to, as a touring comedian and as someone who, when I'm doing a tour, I'll do anywhere between 30 to 50 cities, and I will do almost 100 plus shows in addition to prep shows along the way. That doesn't include the proper tour. So when you saw me on DC, that's the proper tour. There's also a pre-tour making of the show where I go to different smaller markets and get the show ready. So I'll go to Asheville, North Carolina. I'll go to a small theater in Pennsylvania, and I'll stay there. I'll do like a mini residency and go to the coffee shop, talk to people.
You're like the New York Times reporter going to the diners to talk to the Trump people.
I don't do you want the real truth. Just go to ask your Uber driver. Ask your Uber driver 2 questions. Is the rent too damn high? What's the cost of gas? They will always tell you the gas is too high and the rent is too high.
So let me push back a little.
But they'll kind of give you a sense of where the city's at.
Let me push back a little bit.
Sure.
What about the argument that says that it wasn't just
You're right.
economics?
I'm not here to argue. You're right.
Okay, I know I'm right, but that's fine. Let's just go through the motions. What about the argument?
I'm not here to argue.
What about the argument? Not
Sure.
my argument.
Sure,
that
sure,
it wasn't just about economics. That a lot of this for brown and black folks, especially brown folks, especially some people in our community,
Yes.
was much more cultural, right? Yes, people want to pay low taxes. Yes, people are upset about inflation, just as white folks are.
Yes.
But even in places like Michigan, for example, in the Arab American community, people were already upset about the agenda in schools on LGBTQ.
Correct.
And they were, heading for the Republicans in that way. A lot of Latino folks, abortion is a big issue.
Correct.
In those communities. What about that argument?
So the tag to this joke is I talk about Beigeistan and we got 4 issues. And really what that bit is about, so the 4 things that, it's really about is just number 1,
Green card.
Give me a green card.
Yeah.
Allow me to immigrate. Let me get the bag. Sell out number 1 over here.
I'm an immigrant.
Number 2, believe in God.
God bless America.
Capital G God. And preferably one of the gods that makes you feel bad after you masturbate. Those are the real ones. Number 3, obviously our dads don't like paying taxes. Shout out to cash only businesses. I see what you're doing. And number 4, don't bomb my home country. Now, depending on where you're from in Beigeistan, that home country.
I think my family's 3 out of 4.
Yeah, that's symbolic
3 out of 4.
of something. But many voters that are not part of the what I call it the black-white American dichotomy from Beigeistan. It's some combination of those 4, and that was the commentary I'm making. So yeah, I'm not trying to be like it was exact. This is the mistake I think the news media makes. It's exactly
looking for singular reasons.
Singular things. So the great author Nassim Taleb, who I think you should absolutely have on, great Lebanese author.
Black Swan.
Anti-Fragile. These are incredible books. But talks about this as a common problem. Where they do 2 things. You make highly variable outcomes, these single binary things, when in reality we know it's not like that. you could apply that to your personal life and who you date, all the way down to politics. And then number 2 is what a form of what I call Monday morning quarterbacking. Nobody can predict anything, and then a large event happens, and then retroactively assigning it to a binary thing that, oh, it was this thing that caused it.
Yes.
And he warns, do not listen to the forecasters. Do not do it.
What happens to...
Which was a bit that I did on CNBC, by the way. I went on Squawk Box and did this.
I want to come back to the beige guilt and the bombing part in a moment. Just on the actual people of color. You just said no forecasting, but I'm going to ask you predictions because now we're stuck. We've got Trump coming back. What happens to brown and black folks going forward? Do you think they stick with Trump and the Republicans? Does it go up in the years to come? Is there buyer's remorse? I'm of the school of thought that there's going to be huge buyer's remorse, especially in the Muslim community who thought that Trump is going to be somehow better on the Middle East. I think there's going to be instant buyer's remorse.
I think here's irrespective of who you voted for, everybody knew things were not the way they wanted to be. So dare I say things were bad.
Yep.
Okay. Let's say hypothetically you don't even know who the president is.
Like a lot of Americans.
Yeah. You're like, your dad or daddy would live with you at home and be like, Daddy, who's the president? And daddy has no idea.
Ronald Reagan.
Right? She's like, Ronald Reagan's the president or whatever. So assume you don't, from daddy to your Uber driver, they're not happy with the current state of affairs. Okay. So it's bad. The philosophical conundrum that we're going to see is, can things go from bad to worse? And what does that look like? And you've said this before, and you have articulated this point much more profoundly than me. So I think we're going to see some version of that. What does bad to worse look like? Yeah. And how do you deal with that?
I had a lot of people on Twitter and in real life tell me it can't get any worse. And I think we're going to see that things can always get worse.
One of the things that I also want to give a caveat to is this idea of when you label things, oh, it's going to get really bad or it's much worse for me now. One of the things I noticed during the pandemic is I would watch forecasters, specifically financial forecasters, during the big crypto boom. This thing called ZIRP, 0% interest recent phenomenon. There were many companies that were propped up through this thing called ZIRP and that went boom or bust. There's certain people that made a ton of money during the COVID burst and bubble of things. And so you always want to be careful about like bad for whom, worse for whom, and be very specific on who you're talking about and whose lived experience you're talking about.
That's a very good point.
I think John Legend also articulated that very brilliantly in one of your guys' episodes.
Yes, thank you for watching. You talk about, and just going back to the special of yours that I watched, you talk a lot about Beigeistan and beige guilt, right? And you talked about some of the 4 factors, and one of them is don't bomb my country.
Home country,
But of course, America does bomb those home countries. That's the paradox.
The paradox.
The paradox.
This is what I wanted to chat with you about.
That we will deal with. And a lot of brown people watching that will nod along to. Either they'll say so out loud or they'll say it inside and be like, shit, yes, I have made that deal with the devil or whatever it is. And you go further. You actually have this great clip we're going to play in a moment of where you compare the US to the Empire in Star Wars.
Right.
And talk about the Empire bombing the resistance. With, our home countries being the resistance in some shape or form.
Cambodia, Korea, Vietnam, Japan. Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Gaza. Then, in 1982, my dad got a green card to go live in the empire. And for the past 40 years, we've been funding the destruction of Tatooine. And we did all that for a white BMW 3 Series.
I mean, very true in many ways, but how do you...
It's very true.
It is.
It's very true.
It's very, very true.
It is what it is.
Okay, so what do we do with that? Where do we go from that, right? You write that, you sat down, you wrote that, you delivered it to multiple audiences, you now put it on Netflix.
Yes.
What do we do with that as brown people? You've basically held up the mirror.
Yes.
And do you believe, how do you yourself tackle it? B, how do you think people in general, brown folks, do you think it's a pragmatic thing? Do you think it's a sellout thing? How do you deal with it?
This bit to me, really what I was working on, and stand up to me is akin to music in that way. Sometimes you'll have an idea for a joke, which is articulating a feeling. Man, I feel this tension in my life. I feel this thing that is bothering me: heartbreak, disgust, anger, lust, envy, jealousy, just something. In this sense, it was a paradox. And I've always wanted to write a bit that was kind of trying to unpack the paradox of being a brown person in contending with American militarism over the past century.
Yep.
So how do I justify the iTunes user agreement that I signed up for? I clicked accept. In exchange for that, I got a BMW 3 Series.
Yep.
But my tax dollars fund the destruction of people who look very similar to me. And by the way, what I wanted to do and what was really cool to see after people have watched the special, shout out to like all the people from Cambodia and Vietnam and Korea that reached out to me after the special came out, because they go, what happens a lot of times with American militarism is these wars happen and then they're forgotten.
Yes.
They're replaced with new wars.
United States of amnesia.
Yeah, United States of amnesia is a great thing to say, but it's been tough for me to have amnesia because my mom specifically works at the VA, the VA hospital. So she's a physician for many veterans that come back, and some of the people she serves and helps were in the Vietnam War, Gulf War I, Gulf War II, the Korean War, many different wars, Desert Storm. And so one of the things that she's even seen is oftentimes it's even our own armed service members that come to the hospital and feel forgotten. They're like, I participated in this war and society forgot about me. Like this country forgot about me. The general public forgot about me.
But the general public forgot. But brown folks, as you say, are very cognizant of that. I want to bring up Gaza in a moment, but right now, Middle East foreign policies, even before Gaza, even before October 7th, it was a factor for a lot of brown voters, right? And so, how do you think they reconcile that? Just to go back to my question, do you think it's an issue of, well, I need to improve my family's life chances, therefore I'm going to move to the United States regardless of how much I hate their foreign policy? Do you think it's a kind of, I don't care about foreign policy? Is it, I can try and change things from within? We all have those discussions. I have them with myself all the time. I'm an immigrant. I literally chose to come live in the US despite my critiques of what the US does abroad. How do you think people deal with it? How do you reconcile the iTunes agreement?
I think the thing that I thought about when I was doing that bit, and I still think about, is everybody's trying to do the best they can given the circumstances that they live in. And we know this because we both have kids, like these kids ask us tougher questions than Mehdi Hasan.
Yes.
Like people think Mehdi Hasan asks us tough
100%.
questions. They ask like true paradoxes about like the very meaning of life. But I think the thing that I think about with my kids all the time, and it applies to us signing the iTunes user agreement to live in the empire, is you do the best you can with the resources you're given, and really you try to play your hand the best way you possibly can. And I think for a lot of our parents, specifically my dad, when he came in 82, he was like, look, my older sister is giving me this opportunity. Do I go or do I not? And he played his hand the best way he could. He made that choice. So that's number one. But number two, what you're asking me to do, and Mehdi, I thought you were better than this. You're asking me to...
I don't know what you're going to say, but I'm not better than this.
Well, you're asking me to solve a paradox, and paradoxes cannot be solved.
Wow. I don't need Nassim Nicholas Taleb on the show. I have Hasan Minhaj.
That's as my dad says. That is the tension that we live.
Your dad's a very wise guy.
And my dad.
I met your dad. He's a very wise guy.
Yeah,
your impression of him isn't that good, but yeah.
My impression of him is like so off. It's wildly off.
No, but look. Wait.
But can I just say this?
Yeah.
And this buttons the whole thing.
Go on.
And
I'll decide if it buttons the whole thing.
No. You love to litigate. You love to
litigate. I do.
There's sometimes I want to hang out with a friend. I don't want to hang out with a lawyer.
Okay.
Listen, and your staff is cracking up. By the way, they fucking hate your guts. You are the worst.
I know.
You are the worst.
I know.
At the Christmas party that you're not drinking at, they are fucking, on Signal.
I'm not drinking it,
and
I'm
destroying
How much do you think they're going to hate me when I tell them I'm not paying for drink at the Christmas party?
Oh, you're awful.
I know.
You're terrible.
I'm screwed.
Okay, anyways, what's my point? My dad told me something where he was talking about our generation. He goes, one of the things that I wish your generation understood, but I hope that they understand with time, is you guys are trying to seek justice in this dunya. There is no absolute justice in this dunya. Absolute justice only happens in the akhirah. That was my dad's ultimate.
Akhirah being the afterlife.
The afterlife.
The one non-Muslim watching the podcast.
So what he's saying is like we're fighting to seek for this thing called justice in this corporal physical world, where that ledger, and as Mehdi, as you engage in just mouth breathing Twitter battle, you have two accountants that are mentally ill. You and the person that you're arguing with. You are a mentally ill person, but I love you regardless. And so is the other person
I
on
need
Twitter.
to lie down on a couch today with you today, Hasan. I feel like this is proper.
But both sides in an argument truly don't have because we're fallible as human beings.
Yeah.
It's an argument over the ledger of justice, right? And even we've talked about my sister's an attorney. We have many family members that are attorneys. They too will talk about the fallibility even within the justice system, meaning like it's not perfect, even with a judge, even with a jury. It is trying to seek, and so the punchline is just like that is the way my dad is able to sleep. And
is that how you sleep?
Yes. There are times where I'm like, let me do the best I can as a person who was born during this period of time, using the gifts that, God has given me and the opportunities and the
you and I
platforms.
Have, right? We're not, without want to sound like megalomaniacs, we're not ordinary brown men. We do actually have platforms a lot of other brown folks don't have.
Right.
And therefore, a lot of people expect a lot more from us. One thing I would say is Gaza.
Yes.
Big issue for the Muslim community. Many would say in a place like Dearborn,
correct.
They did not want to vote for Kamala Harris because she was seen as part of a genocide-enabling administration. Understandably so. For a lot of people in Dearborn, they lost dozens and dozens of family members.
Right.
You very early on came out and signed, I think it was the Artists for Ceasefire.
Artists for Ceasefire, yeah.
Was that you saying, all right, I don't know how to solve the Middle East situation, and I'm not a politician or a journalist, but I am someone with a platform I want to put my voice to? What was the thinking?
In my heart, when I saw the document that was put together, artistsforceasefire.org, which is really fantastic, and I think everyone should go check it out. What I loved about it is there's two things that I just like firmly believe in. I do not believe personally in violence. Like I just do not believe it is a solution to problems. Specifically, the type of violence that exists now in post-World War II level militarism with nuclear weapons. This type of violence, like, can only descend into mutually assured destruction, MAD. So that's number one. And then number two, the thing that I found profound, both personally and spiritually, is I believe in the sanctity of all human life. And so those two ideas was, hey, look, I may not be able to solve this, but I think this needs to be articulated to the current administration in hopes of letting them know that all of these artists, from Riz Ahmed to Drake to, I guess, myself.
The one I always pop out is Channing Tatum.
Shout out to Channing. But believe in these principles, and we hope for a ceasefire and to stop the loss of life.
What's it been like for you watching what's been happening in Gaza for the past year? You said you're on Instagram. That's the one social platform you're on. It's been horrific. We've had a live streamed massacres for a year.
I can't articulate how.
There are no words for it.
There's no words. I mean, I can't put it in a soundbite. Yeah,
no,
I'm sorry.
That's how we're all feeling. One thing you do say in the show, which I thought was interesting, and I kind of went, ooh, is when you talk about politicians and how you talked about, forget the paradox of being brown in America. You make a quite general, sweeping, many would say accurate remark about the nature of our leaders. Let's play that clip.
I am 38 years old. This will be the 10th presidential cycle of my lifetime. Every president in my lifetime goes into office a sociopath and then leaves a war criminal. Because they all want one thing. You know what they want? They want the ring. Ooh, they want the ring of power. They want it. They want it more than marriage, more than family, more than their kids. Look at Hillary Clinton. Look at how bad Hillary Clinton wanted to be president. Hillary Clinton wanted to be president so bad. She was willing to sit in the same office not a different office, not a replica House of Cards office, the Oval Office.
Yeah, that's sociopathic.
We could talk about Hillary Clinton.
Have her on the show. Have her on the show.
I'm not sure she'll agree. Well, that's where that's where I'm going with this conversation, because I don't think she'll come on the show with me. But they do sit down with you, a lot of these big name politicians, and it's interesting because you've sat down with Barack Obama. I watched a very fun conversation you had with Obama, and yet here you are saying he's a war criminal.
Yes.
Do you think that'll limit your ability to get people on when you're saying they're all sociopaths who become war criminals?
I've told them that they're sociopaths.
Have you told them they're war criminals?
I mean, I have some version of that. I think in the Obama interview, I think I had an index card or something that was just like, it was like an index card of just like, hey, I'm not going to ask you, but my friends want me to ask you. And then it was like closing Guantanamo Bay. Like, we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
The relationship that I have in relation to like a bureaucrat or a politician is I'm just kind of a surrogate for the general population. You know, I happen to do stand-up comedy, but that's really it. So, you know, that's the title of the show. Hasan Minhaj doesn't know. I'm not saying I'm.
But you're a very political comedian, right?
This special, I think, touches.
I mean, the fact that you even sit down with politicians.
Society.
Most stand-up comedians don't sit down with Pete Buttigieg.
Sure.
So why do you do that?
He said yes to the booking.
Obviously. What drives you, though? What makes you interested in this stuff?
Why am I interested? I'm interested in people and the machinations of power, and specifically with bureaucrats and politicians, of why they make the decisions that they make, what informed the decisions they make, and why on earth they would decide to be in politics.
You're fascinated by it.
I'm super fascinated by it, just as a...
Could you ever be in politics?
No, I cannot. Even though people say, they're like, you look like it. And I'm like, that's a huge insult.
Do people say that?
Yeah, they go, you should run for office. And I go, that is
it
the
really people, or
insult.
do you mean like your mom and dad?
No, my mom and dad. Like 5 people are like, you should run for office.
That's enough.
That's enough.
That's enough for a majority in some towns.
But I also had, by the way, I had JJ Redick on the podcast too, head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. JJ's doing a great job. So it's also like, I am interested in people that have a profound impact on the world. When it comes to politicians specifically, I'm very interested of like why someone would want to be the Secretary of Transportation, or like why someone would want to be the mayor of London. I think I asked Sadek on that. I'm like, you're just gonna get blamed for everything anytime there's like a pothole.
It's his 3rd term.
I know, it's crazy. So anyways, that's kind of my intention of just like, hey, why do you?
But what's interesting is watching this special is it does feel kind of prophetic in many ways. You're ahead of the curve on a lot of the issues that all of us journalists are talking about now. There's a moment where you identify what's become a very big talking point since the election, which is the manosphere, the Rogan verse, the men who listen to podcasts. Let's have a watch.
I'm part of a generation of men that don't read, but listen to podcasts. Terrifying. All my homies out here texting me alpha male memes. Just hard times make hard men. Hard men make good times. Good times make soft men. A society will never value its men until the wolves are at the door. I'm like, Sanjay, you're a software engineer. Shut the fuck up. Why are you texting me like you're Julius Caesar? Whatever, bro.
Now, this was filmed, remember, July.
Yes.
Right? The day of Donald Trump's attempted assassination attempt that you weren't at.
Yes.
All the commentary since the election has been, should Kamala Harris have done Joe Rogan? Do Democrats have a Joe Rogan? The podcast, the manosphere. How do we get young men away from right-wing influencers on YouTube? And I feel like you were calling that out there. Is that something you saw happening in your own circles? I mean, I know you make a joke about Sanjay, but did you see that? Wow, some of my people of my generation friends are going right-wing, if I can use that phrase.
I don't know if it's...
Yeah, how would you describe it? Use your words.
The thing that I don't want to do is, again, diagnose something that I didn't see who they voted for. So I can't tell you what their partisanship is. So let's be careful there. Be like, hey, saying Sanjay is voting this way. Like, I don't want to say that at large, because I still, even on my Du Bois group thread, I don't know who they voted for. We talk about basketball, we talk about politics, we talk about life.
Off limits?
We talk about,
nobody asked the question. They just. You need to add me to the chat. I'll get that.
You'll get the answer from everyone. You'll get it out of them. But what I'm commenting on is the short form YouTube short TikTokification of, pseudo-intellectualism,
but which is heavily right wing. Right, like there's a Pew poll that just came out, Pew study, that there are more right-wing influencers on every social media platform with the exception of TikTok. And you look at the big names online, who Tucker Carlson's now on YouTube, Charlie Kirk, Theo Von, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan endorsed Trump, of course, this time around. Although about 8 years ago he was Bernie. Yeah. And Trump did very well with 18 to 29-year-old men in a way that people didn't think the Republicans. There's this thing, young people are all progressives. Turns out not necessarily.
I think this is where we got to zoom out. I know this is dropping on Monday, but just zoom out. This is what it is, and this is both like a spiritual practice and an artistic practice, which is, by the way, have you ever had this author? I'm trying to meet him. There's a very beautiful book called Islam in the Black America by Dr. Sherman Jackson.
I know Sherman Jackson. It's a great guy.
Please introduce me to him.
I will straight after the show.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, he's Californian.
He's an amazing writer. But one of the things that I love about his Islamic approach as a Black Muslim is specifically in the way in which Black Muslims had to grapple with the realities of society in the period of time they were living in, despite the incredible challenges that they as a community had to live through. Dr. Sherman Jackson articulates this incredibly beautifully. And he talks about it in different periods of time that Black Muslim America had to kind of grapple with the realities of the time. That's what we have to do as artists. That's what the conversation around politics. Should you have done this podcast? Should you have not have done this? Just this is the state of the world. You have to engage with the population and the populace where they are. It's why you go on Piers Morgan. If you go on Piers, dude, that place is fucking crazy.
But it's a big platform, and I reach people.
And I'll see a photo of you and Wajahat, like on this. It'll be like, Mehdi Hasan defends the religion of Islam. And you're like, and I'm like, how did this guy who went to Oxford be part of this insane YouTube thumbnail? And your argument to me would be, I'm trying to engage with the world where it is. So
what I find really interesting is for a guy who's not on social media, you follow a lot of my stuff on social media.
Of course.
Mashallah.
You're a huge star on Muslim WhatsApp. You're
not bigger than you.
You're Michael. You are Michael Jordan for Desi Dads.
Look, I get the engaging, but take a step back. What if the people who are engaging are getting? I'm not going to use the phrase brainwashed, but are getting influenced. Right? We call them influencers for a reason. Are we seeing a trend of young men being influenced by the Joe Rogans and the Theo Vons and all these people online in a way that actually makes them less, the progressive destiny? That young people will all be progressive and they're not.
Yeah, I just don't speak in generalizations. Like I can't. The only thing I know is if I ask somebody, did you vote for someone based on a podcast appearance? Everybody that I ask,
forget voting.
Or did you?
For example, when I meet people,
Sure.
I meet people and I talk to them about politics, culture, because I'm such a nerd and I'm such an anorak, and because I immerse myself in this world probably too much. I can tell, it's a party trick. I can tell if somebody says something where they heard it. I could say, you watched that show, you heard that podcaster, you watched that. That's like everyone wants to say they're really original thinkers, but most people are just passing off stuff they read online, saw online. So if right-wingers are controlling a big chunk of the mediums that most young people are using, that's going to influence parts of the population.
So for me, I think it's just, I somewhat agree with what you're saying, but I just think it's an amalgamation of people's experiences. When I'm talking about I'm talking about the 7, 8 friends that I grew up with that I've known since literally elementary school. When you talk about their bank account, their career, where they currently live, who they're married. I mean, let's get very real. Who their spouse is, the school that their kids go to, the circle of friends they now have in adult life. Now we're at 6 variables, man. I haven't even gotten to podcasting. I'm telling you, get off the phone. It's frying your brain. I'm telling you this, Mehdi.
Dude, you're the one who did a bit on your show about podcasts.
No. My critique of them is don't just live on TikTok and YouTube Shorts.
Yes.
Have the ability to read full books.
Agreed.
Remember the top of the bit. I'm part of a generation of men that listen to podcasts or just are on social media but don't.
And as you've just pointed out, you read books. You read Sherman Jackson.
Yeah, and that's just
Nassim Taleb.
Try to seek a deeper understanding of the issues through, and reading is a way to do that because you can't do it at 2x or 4x. You have to actually read the stuff.
You're also doing very well on YouTube.
What do you want me to say? I feel like you're pushing me to say something. Do you
I'm
want me
not pushing to say anything.
Give me the soundbite you want me to say.
I don't have any soundbite to say. I feel like you're psychoanalyzing me.
Okay, I got you. When you keep digging, I'm like, what do you want me to say?
I was just trying to get to the bottom of. You did the podcast. I thought that was very profound because we're all talking about podcasts. I'm like, damn, Hasan nailed not just the brown folks going to Trump. He got the podcast influence. Now you're saying you don't think that's fine. I was just checking what influence you think it has. But also I noticed that you're on YouTube, and I do find a lot of creators now. I was wondering, is that a conscious decision to try and get in the place? You were a guy who was on
legacy media,
if we can call it. So was I, and now we're very much in podcast
in
world.
Social
People
media,
are going to watch this on YouTube. They're going to watch it on Substack. They're going to watch clips on Instagram.
Right.
You're on YouTube now. How are you finding that?
I think it's great. I think it's very cool. So when I discovered stand-up comedy, and I started performing, was 2004, 2005. That was the birth of YouTube. I think YouTube was founded, I believe, 2005. And so
Muslim guy.
Say what?
Muslim.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. I'm the guy. I'm the uncle who says everything's from Muslim.
Okay, gotcha.
It was a Muslim guy who went to the zoo. Remember that clip?
Oh, was it?
The zoo clip that was the first YouTube. It was one of the co-creators of YouTube was a Muslim guy.
You have to cross-check their religion all the time?
Maybe.
All right.
I take pride.
That's what's up. Yeah. And you want positive stereotypes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't a terrorist.
Yeah. Got you. What's my point? So I started YouTube when in 2004, 2005. I think it came out in 2005. Even in the 20 years that it's existed, roughly, it has seen different iterations. So the early versions of that platform, people put sketches on it. Like me and my friends in college would put YouTube sketches, and it was called.
I heard you were a
sketches.
big MSA comedian guy.
Huge MSA skit guy.
I know people here.
South Asian Student
I know people who say they
Association.
knew you back then before you were.
Yeah.
You were Daily
And they're
Show.
like, he was just as annoying, and he was just as
funny.
Yeah, it was just
Before you were
hopefully-
Daily Show guy.
Yeah, before I was that guy. Yeah, before I was like a stand-up, I was just kind of doing these clips, and I was doing open mics. So what I'm trying to say is, I've seen that platform take shape in different ways. And kind of what we're doing right now is just meeting, again, like I said, meeting people where they're at. So yeah, the 20 years that YouTube's existed, it's taken on many different iterations. What started off as, it was actually three things. It was like, here's a funny video of someone falling downstairs.
Yep.
Here's a place where you can put comedy skits and sketches. And then the third thing is, before stuff got pulled off, people would just upload entire episodes of South Park, and it was almost like a low-key torrent site. And it has continued to iterate, and now it's many things. People put out music videos on it, but they also put out long-form podcasts.
People are getting their news from it.
Sure,
That's
yeah,
what's interesting.
Sure,
And interestingly, the polls show that Trump won the people who got news from social media, and Harris won the people who got news from newspapers and legacy media.
But for me, my responsibility and just my goal is, I want to put out my art, whatever that is, stand up, us hanging out, doing an interview, whatever that may be, putting it out in its purest, rawest, most like unadulterated form, like in totality, like final version.zip upload, you know?
So just before we finish, on legacy media,
Yeah.
you came to fame with The Daily Show.
Yes.
Jon Stewart's back on The Daily Show. You and I both
Killing
loved
it. Yes.
Jon Stewart, he's
Yes.
killing it. And
Yes.
a lot of people are saying, run for president,
Yes.
which I don't think he'll do. But his response, he actually said something brilliant on election night. He said, like, every take you're going to hear from now is going to be shit. Like, everyone who gives their insta.
That's such a Taleb thing too as well.
And he's been proved
Don't
right.
listen to the forecast.
He's been proved right. Some would say they love Jon Stewart,
Yes.
but they wanted you to be the Daily Show host. And it didn't happen.
Yes.
And part of the reason some would argue it didn't happen is because there was a New Yorker piece about you.
Yes.
Which some people have described as a hit job.
Sure.
Which said, oh my God, Hasan Minhaj lied about his past because
Yes.
certain stories on stage don't meet the factual
Yes.
bar of the New Yorker.
Yes.
And you addressed it head on.
So if you want to fact check me, I just want to let you know I lease a 2023 Kia Carnival, $431 a month. We leased it from Columbia Kia. We got it at the summer Kia sales event. You can get a brand new Kia Sorento or Kia Carnival for 0% down, 0% APR financing. The Kia summer sales event starts now. Kia, movement that inspires. I have to do this now. I have to do this now, you guys. I have to be factually accurate. Because I don't know if you saw this last year, The New Yorker fact-checked my stand-up comedy. Yeah. They were just like, oh, breaking news, magicians aren't wizards. And now I have a controversies tab on my Wikipedia.
I enjoyed the way you did that.
Oh, cool.
Dealing with that, but just kind of jokes aside,
Yeah.
what was that whole period like for you?
Yeah, I put out also, in addition to this, if anyone is really bored, there's also a 21-minute video that I did on it. So
Which was your own fact check of the fact check.
a fact check of the fact check
The best ones.
of their fact check
Got to bring receipts.
of my stand-up.
Yes.
And Indian people love receipts.
We love receipts.
So yeah, it's all there. Everything, the audio, the receipts that I brought, how I feel about it. It's all there. Yeah.
Was it weird to think you're in the middle of this thing? Because like you joke about the fact that like you even say it's not even a good controversy.
Sure,
like,
sure.
There's better,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
crazier controversies.
Yeah.
This is yours. Like of all the things.
You
for
know
Brown,
what, do you watch basketball at all in the States?
very little.
Okay, so I'll tell you this perfectly summarizes it. So if you want full analysis, feelings, and more, there's a 21-minute video
Yep.
on my YouTube channel. Like and subscribe for more.
Or read a book.
Or read a book. Or read a full book. All of it. Not an audiobook, full book.
Hey, audiobooks are good. I have an
Actually-
audiobook.
I actually think reading is better.
But
in
win
reading
every,
your, in
but
reading
win
your
every
book,
argument is an audiobook and a print book.
I think the print book is a great way to experience
thank
it.
you.
Marking it up is fantastic. So in basketball, there's this thing called this is the addendum to the addendum. So if you want more than 21 minutes about this, here's 21 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay. In basketball, there's a thing called you people in the media love this. But give me more feelings. I gave you 21 minutes of feelings. But how do you feel? Yeah, but there's 21 minutes of feelings. But what do you think about
20 minutes
it?
is somewhere else.
I
This is
know.
we're not
But
kidding.
how do I get value from it? How do I get it? In basketball, there's a thing called the L2M report. And in the NBA, when there's a close game, they will issue a thing called the last 2-minute report, and they will give you a PDF of the calls that they got right, the calls that they got wrong, but it doesn't change the outcome. So many fans think the L2M report is kind of meaningless and pointless. But I think the L2M report is a great allegory for life, for the careers we've chosen, but everything, which is things happen. You can go check out the 21-minute YouTube video.
Yep.
And then you got to keep playing the game, and you got to keep focusing on your next possession. And I think you know this too. In you've had a multi-decade career, and that's it. There's ups, downs, sideways, things that you thought were bad, but that's actually kind of good, and everything in between. So that is the ultimate addendum to all of it. Is don't fixate on the L2M report.
I feel like if you weren't a comedian after today, you would have a very good alternate career as a
basketball coach,
therapist.
No, bro, no.
I feel like listening to you. I feel like I'm better. I feel like I'm a better person at the end of this conversation. I feel like I'm going to go home to my wife and say I've improved as a person by sitting with Hasan for 45 minutes today.
There's a whole thing in the special that I talk about how therapy is misused.
Yes, okay. But yours is you should have culturally appropriate therapists. I feel like you and I have that. Let's look forward then.
Okay, let's look forward. Sure.
What are you up to next? What's exciting you? What's motivating you? What's moving you?
Here's what's motivating me. There's nothing better than putting out a special off with his head, now streaming on Netflix. Watch it now.
Or read a book.
May I suggest How to Win an Argument by Mehdi Hasan or Anti-Fragile by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He should totally come on the show.
We should.
I would love to have him on my show. And then the thing I'm looking forward to the most, man, is I get to spend the holidays with my kids and my family.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, looking forward to it. You're a Thanksgiving fan?
Going to be in California with my family.
Turkey fan?
Yep. Hey, you might see me at a local mall in California.
Do you like turkey?
Walking around. Turkey, highly overrated.
Oh, you're one of those browns.
One of those browns.
A lot of brown folks hate turkey. I don't understand the hatred. I like turkey.
It's just dry. It's not a great meat. It's only
such a dissy sometimes.
Yeah. I
love turkey.
Let me pitch an alternate.
Don't try and... I can't eat pork, right?
Yeah.
Don't take another animal off the table.
Look at Mehdi.
It's like you're trying to limit the birds that I can have.
Mehdi loves obsessing about the culture wars.
I love meat, is what I love.
I would pitch just as an alternate meat, and let me know in the comments. I pitch chicken, lamb, or goat.
But we already eat those. I already eat that year-long round.
I'm talking about America at large.
Oh, fine, yeah.
Chicken,
Americans should get into goat.
And if you're not into goat, ask any of your friends from Jamaica, West Indies,
India,
Pakistan,
Bangladesh. We love goat.
Guyanese people, yeah.
Last word to you.
Yes.
I spoke to Bassem a few weeks ago, Yusuf in Toronto. He was super depressed on the last episode of We're Not Kidding. He thinks he's kind of given up. He's kind of like, I can't do it anymore. I don't think things are going to improve. I don't have any optimism about the future.
Yeah.
And I asked him, how do you do that as a comedian? Like, you're the guy who makes people laugh. And he said, look, making people laugh is the only thing that gives him a relief. What do you feel? Feelings question. When you're on stage, what are you feeling making people laugh? What does that do for you? What's your motivation to go out and make people laugh?
For me, it's the only skill that I have that's of value to society. Truly. And I've been fired from every other job that I've had. Truly, this is true. I've been fired from every other job.
This is a good skill to have.
This is
you make people laugh.
Relatively recently was I financially rewarded for it in a way that I was like, oh, this is a really good skill.
Put the money to one side, but as a purpose in life, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's...
If you're on your deathbed looking back, what did you do? I made a lot of people happy.
So it's funny. I'm actually working on a project right now where a lot of the themes, it's a coming of age, project that I'm working on, and I'm still tweaking and refining the core material. But one of the things that we were talking about in the writers' meeting about the material was when you're a young person and when you're an adult, there's this feeling that you're chasing, and you can experience it through MDMA or mushrooms, but the feeling you're chasing is being alive. And I remember my first open mic where it was really working. I can't even articulate how good I felt. I felt like I really belonged. I felt like I had agency. I felt like I mattered. I felt I had like something to share with the world. I felt like I had purpose. That's the feeling that I'm chasing.
It's a good feeling.
It's a good, and I wish that for everybody. Without mushrooms. Yeah, and I don't have to do it without illicit drugs.
On that note, we'll have to leave it there.
Yeah.
I'm Mehdi Hasan.
I'm Hasan Minhaj.
And we were not kidding.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding about everything. Don't take it literally, please.
We're Not Kidding is a Zeteo production. I'm your host, Mehdi Hasan, and today's co-host was Hasan Minhaj. Our executive producer is Kieran Alvey. Our senior producer and editor is Frank Capello. Our music was composed by Andy Clausen. Our design is by Alicia Taytone. Our mix engineer is Valentino Rivera. And the title card animation is by Hasan Mezghali.